this is in there. All right. Okay. Again, the Sikhs prohibit cutting the hair, alcohol, drugs, tobacco, pilgrimages, fasting, idol worship, veils for women, worthless talk, bragging, lying, slander. It's an excellent way to put it. They prohibit priests and religious leaders. They prohibit meat, at least most Sikhs, and adultery. Okay, not a bad thing to prohibit. So they're really whatever, man. Like they don't need someone telling them what to believe because if all humans have God in them, what's the need for a building or a person to teach you anything if you're already made in the image and have God in you? And this is not that weird a thought because there are even Western religions that kind of are similar to this from the standpoint of, yeah, there's God, but the idea that God's a clockmaker and just wound it up and let it go, that was the universe. Most of our founding fathers believed that yeah, there's a God, but we're on our own. And those are deists. Franklin was a deist. I mean, Jefferson was a deist. Lots of them were deists. All right. Not Sikhs. Okay. Europeans spread Christianity, but conversions with little religious instruction allowed for syncretism. There's that word again. With native faiths. Gosh, this class makes it so much easier to explain that now. Again, because you're so far away. Remember, yesterday we talked about how the Spanish made the audiencianos, the audiences, the local court systems. You're an ocean away. With good weather, you're 2 months, you're a 5-month round trip from getting a question read and answered and with a response. So a lot of local control, whether it be from the Pope or from the Anglican Church, which I guess that'd be the king or the Queen of England, or from the government itself, was so slow that there's a lot of local control and a lot of autonomy on how information is delivered. So if you're trying to get people to convert, you're going to draw from comparisons about what other people know. And this is going to lead to syncretism and the blending of things. This is how we get voodoo. Oh, speaking of which, voodoo, developed in the Caribbean. It's between Christian and African religions. Louisiana is just America's best example of syncretism. It's just Spanish influence, and there's French influence, and there's Native influence, and there's African influence. Shadow man. All right. Okay. M&M's on his head. Okay. Santeria, the way of the saints, based on an African faith, became popular in Cuba and other areas in Latin America. Wait, is that the Sublime song? Yeah. They don't practice Santeria. Holy cow! Song makes sense. That's okay. That's actually kind of cool. All right. Look at that. Okay. I like Edgar Renteria. Anyway, so again, a syncretism. That's so cool. Okay. Candomblé, dance to the honor of the gods, combined several African religions to become popular in Brazil. Shakira's probably grateful. Stop mocking me with your eyes. All right. And then finally, let me go back so you can write that down. Also, I did post this PowerPoint. I sent everybody the link to it in the remind. So if you wanted to take notes and get ahead, it's there. And I'm going to do that for the other one. I may have to cut it into smaller pieces so that it can be uploaded. I may just do like Unit 5 stuff and then do Unit 6 stuff. All right. In Mexico, they largely convert to Catholicism. We know this. They rallied around the dark-skinned saint, the Virgin of Guadalupe, who's a miracle worker, and she is everywhere in Mexican and in Latin religious culture. The Virgin of Guadalupe. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. If not, if you're a Spanish speaker, please help me. Also, if you practice any of these faiths mentioned, and information here is either incomplete or incorrect, please do not sit silently and allow me to disseminate wrong or incomplete information to other people so that they can go ahead and continue to spread wrong or incomplete information. This is an opportunity for everybody in this room to learn stuff. No good teacher thinks they know everything. No good teacher thinks they haven't learned everything. And I mean every single word of that. So if something's not right, let me know. At this place, the Indians had a temple dedicated to the mother of the gods, whom they called Tonantzin, which means our mother. There they performed many sacrifices in honor of this goddess, and now that a church of Our Lady of Guadalupe is built there, they also called her Tonantzin, being motivated by those preachers who call Our Lady the Mother of God. Tonantzin. It appears to be a satanic invention to cloak idolatry under the confusion of this name, Tonantzin. Okay, so that is definitely a Catholic priest not feeling syncretism. By the way, I'm not purposely, in the interest of time, reading every passage, and so I probably won't read many more of these today, but they're in there. And when we're looking for context and for perspective, they're not bad things to review, but I'm not going to hold you to it. All right. The Reformation, which is going on in England during this time, which gives us, well, Calvinism, Lutheranism, Methodism, Baptists, Presbyterians, and then every other denomination under those. This increases diversity in Christian sects, S-E-C-T-S, across the world, would mean different things. Remember, Martin Luther said, what gets you to heaven? Ooh. It was just what? Believing in Jesus. Just faith, correct. Just faith, not good works. You can do all the good works in the world. If you don't believe, you're just a good worker. Methodism, and I only know this because I married into it. John Wesley believed in the faith bit, but Methodists also take works and bring it back. There's a big missionary component to Methodism now, and two of the countries that are seeing the most mission work right now, or two of the places, are the United States, ironically, and Europe. We always tend to, when you think of mission trips, you think of the continent of Africa or South America or Central America. But if you look, those places aren't seeing a decline in church membership. It's stage 4 and stage 5 countries that are seeing a decline in church membership. In England, when we went 13 years ago, there'd be a church, yes, but then one church would be now a library, and one church would be a restaurant. It wasn't being used anymore. I even saw one church was a pub. So, but if you remove all this stuff from it, it's a building. People yet to be contacted by Buddhists, Christians, or Muslims continued to practice their indigenous faiths. They were animists or other polytheistic faiths. So religion, I guess, is an independent invention. And religion is very environmental determinant. Where you live may determine, your environment may dictate what you believe, how you do things. And Moana is an example of that. That we must keep the gods happy. The coconuts are turning black. We gotta make that one mother island. I made that one god happy. We need to go get what's his name? The Rock. Yeah. His character. Maui. We need to go get him and his hook. All right. And that's 4 or 5. So I knew it was just religions. But again, those religions impact how places interact within themselves, and religious faiths impact how you're going to relate, whether economically, because we're talking about economics here, or politically with others. What does your faith say with respect to others? All right. So we now have religions that are different, and they're offering competition to the established guys, to the Roman Catholic Church, to Sunni Muslims, to the old school Hindus, whatever. So those people, we have a burgeoning, growing social class. We have states that are changing from being not quite ready for prime time to prime time players. We have nations in the world becoming DAC, and we got nations in the world who are the lions. Okay, that just aren't doing well. And these changes, both internally because of religion and social class, and externally from those nations who pose a threat, are going to alter how states generate and project power. And that's what 4.6 is about. Explain the effects of development of state power again. And this is within a state and between states. Questions, comments? Anybody? Okay. Okay. Resistance to Portugal in Africa. Again, these are conflicts. Resistance to Portugal. There are all your Portuguese holdings. Lots of islands, a couple of different countries. I believe that's Mozambique. Again, mostly ports, mostly trading. They're not. I don't want to say they weren't interested in empire building. I just think they realized that they wouldn't have been successful. They couldn't afford it. But you got to think that if they could have, they'd have tried a little harder. I'm not a Portuguese historian. Can't stand Ronaldo. Can't. All right. Portuguese possessions, again, have been lost to the Dutch and English, but they maintain their colonies and slave raiding in Africa. That's nice. All right. In 1624, Ana Zinga took over the Ndogo in Central Africa. The kingdom endured Portuguese slave raids and attacks from other African groups. So she. So that means not. So again, now you see a she. And we're not going to get into that. But you see a queen, which means that not all of Africa was patriarchal. Which means that in some places in Africa, it was different than other places in Africa or in Europe or in the Americas. Although Native American, Amerindian culture also had more instances of matriarchal societies than patriarchal societies. All right. She initially allied with Portugal for protection against other Africans, because by this time, this is 1624. Okay, Spain starts their bit in the 1490s. We have the entire 16th century or 1500s of slave trading. And it's really picking up in 1624, because what happened in 1619? Anybody know? Lots of things I know. But in the American colonies, what happened in 1619? After Bacon's Rebellion. No, Jamestown is 1607, but thank you, Sam. 1620 was Plymouth. So this is before Plymouth. Still in Virginia. Happens in Virginia. The first slaves are brought to the colonies. First African slaves are brought to the colonies in 1619 after Bacon's Rebellion, because paying English people to farm was a hassle because they wanted to be paid. When the alliance with Portugal deteriorated, she took over the state of Matamba. She allied with the Dutch and rebelled against the Portuguese. There you go. Bye, Portuguese. Hey, Dutch. Sorry. And again, I'm not going to read that. She was a fierce anti-colonial warrior, militant fighter, a woman holding power in a male-dominated society. She laid basis for successful. Yeah, she basically is like the predecessor for all the Angolan pushback against the Portuguese. She was also an elite woman living off the labor of others, murdered her brother and his children. By Aurora Levins Morales, author and feminist. Okay. What?
I mean, why is the lady the author popular if she murdered her brother?
She's a strong woman in charge in the male world, man. Because she got paid $1 for a dollar. That's why. All right. Well, look, she's also a ruler. So she's acting like every other ruler. I'm eliminating my threat to my throne. So there you go. Hi, Miss Moscato. Okay. I'm sure you were here, but I just saw you come back. Uh-oh. Now what? We're going to talk about Russia. Local resistance in Russia. That's right. Can you believe that there are people in and around Russia who don't like Russia? Crazy talk. All right. Actually, no, again, historically, nerding out here. If Peter could have kept Russia looking west, it would have been so different. Russia is so tied to Eastern looking because their threats came from the East. All right, bundles. And China was a rival, and Russia never felt connected. I mean, geography really dealt Russia a pretty horrible hand. And yet, if they could get their act together, there's so much natural resource under all that land that if it wasn't Putinized, it might, work out okay. All right, so here's the Russian Empire. There's the Austro-Habsburg Empire. There's our Mughals, another gunpowder. All right. I bet I know what those are. All right. So Russian nobles, known as the boyars, B-O-Y-A-R-S. Those are Russian nobles. And Mongols, oppressed peasants demanding tribute and labor. Peasants became indebted and sold into serfdom. Russia loved its serfdom, but not as much as America loves slaves, because Russia ended serfdom before we ended slavery. Even Russia freed its people before we did. Well, freed its people. If you're poor, you're really free. That's deep, y'all. Okay. I'm going to teach philosophy. Me and Rutherford philosophizing. English. English. Dude, wait till I'm not in the room. Oh. All right. No, I can respect that. He's good at what he does. Serfdom benefited Russian government because it kept people under control, and it gave them labor. Benefits. How do you handle an internal threat? You make them not a threat, and you put them to work, and you make them dependent on you for their survival. Just a picture. Okay. In 1649, serfdom reinforced by law in Russia. So now it's a legal practice to buy, sell, and punish serfs. That's pretty close to slavery. See, because remember, initially back in the day, in the Middle Ages, serfs were part of the land. So if I own this room and you're all my serfs, if I sell my land to Connor, Connor then gets the land and everybody on it. And the serfs come with the land. They don't come with me. They're just part of the land. Here, you can broker them. That's slavery. I don't know how it's not. I don't know the argument that wherever this information originates, they call it serfdom. And this is just to me. Like, that's slavery to me. I don't care what color they are, that's slavery. You buy and sell people, that's slavery. For labor. Sorry. Oh, I know who this is. I know. She came after Peter.
Oh, Catherine the Great.
Yep, Kathleen. All right. Catherine the Great instituted a series of reforms. She's what we call an enlightened despot. A despotic ruler is a ruler that says, do as I say because I say it. But she thought about it. She was an enlightened ruler. Like, she liked the Renaissance. She corresponded with I think Rousseau or Voltaire. She corresponded with Voltaire. She knew who they were. Because remember, Peter took Russia and made Russia look into Europe. Made the Russian men cut their hair and shave, brought back Western European dress, brought back education, brought back all kinds of stuff. She continues that. While still being Russia and being really, really crummy to the serfs, but she had some reforms. She wouldn't end serfdom. She actually passed laws to make the nobles more control of the serfs while kind of reforming things. And she did the one thing Peter could not do for Russia. Anybody? No, Peter expanded. What did Peter want? What did every Russian leader want, but only Catherine could get for them? Peace. Oh, silly person. No. Geographically, Russia's there, right? And no, a southern port, a warm water port, because 4 months out of every year they can't trade via oceans because their only port is up in the Baltic. Huh?
Where is it? Where do they have a southern name?
Here. And here in the Baltic. That's where the Olympics were, in Sochi. You go right there through the Bosporus Straits to the Mediterranean.
Oh, I didn't know
That's where Constantinople is, right there.
Oh, yeah.
All right, that's all right. It's a globe, so it looks different. That's okay. It's like kind of more accurate. Okay. It has azimuthal view, a top-down view. All right, Emelian Pugachev. Emelian Pugachev. It's not my bird. Okay. What do you mean? It's a great bird. It's not my bird. All right. He's a Cossack. Cossacks were people from the steppes. Oops, sorry. You're over here. The steppes of Asia, the Ukraine area, horsemen, excellent fighters. He wanted land redistribution. He wanted lower taxes, and he wanted to end the draft. And he led a serf uprising. Oh. Pugachev. I think that's where the hats come from. Big, tall, woolly hats. Cossack hats, I believe. Any questions out there? Wait, Miss Fiscato, are you outside? Or is that just a big window? Nice. You win today. All right. I wish I could teach from outside. Gosh, if we were virtual, I'd be outside now on my deck. All right, teach away. Pugachev. From me, such reward, blah, 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 blah. Okay. They will see for themselves my righteous anger, and they will be punished harshly. My righteous anger. There you go. Let's see, for me, such reward and investiture will be with money and bread compensation and with promotions. And you as well, you're next of kin on the place in the government. So he's talking about revolution. An uprising. And this is 1773. 3 years before ours. 16 years before France's and everybody else's. But after, no. have to think about it. But it is post-Enlightenment. And so those ideas are everywhere. And because you can get the written word everywhere, those ideas are spread, and that's how revolutions foment. All right. Oh, okay, the Black Sea and the steppes. All right. I know it's the steppes. There, that's a Cossack. There's the hat. Cossacks were peasants, and many runaway serfs from the steppes, the grassy plains, and the Black Sea. And they were famed. They were good fighters. Probably, if you think about the steppes, close proximity, Mongol land and horsemen, and we don't know the cultural and ethnic evolution of Cossacks. So who knows? I'm not gonna say no. St. Petersburg, that was the port area. Actually, that land doesn't get acquired until after Peter the Great too. Catherine names it for him. That was nice. But up there, near Scandinavia, was their port. Because down here was Ottoman land. Despite initial successes, Pugachev's rebellion was eventually crushed. Pugachev was executed. Should come as no surprise. And Catherine imposed harsher serf controls. They were you think you were unhappy before. You haven't seen misery. All right. How we doing? And if you need to, you can always stretch. Okay. Whoop. Rebellions in South Asia. Everybody's rebelling. Again, post-Enlightenment too. Coincidence? Maybe. But it's a change. It's an influence. Oh, India. Somebody's going to fall. The Mughal Empire controlled most of South Asia. South Asia is Pakistan and India. Yeah, by and large. All right, that was India too. So, yeah, till 48. Maratha soldier, Sultan Aurangzeb, I guess. I should practice at home. Marathas were devout Hindus who challenged Muslim leaders of the Mughal Empire. The Sultan Aurangzeb died fighting them. Again, Hindus were there first. Hindus are probably in larger numbers, but the Muslims had the means to conquer them. Yeah.
This is after
Abu Bakr. That's an excellent question. Alphabetical order. Marathas and the Mughals. It's the Deccan War or the Maratha War of Independence between 1680 and 1707. So I believe so. Yep. All right. After Akbar. Okay, good question. And they create their own empire. There you go. It's right here. In several battles leading to the collapse of the Mughal Empire and the creation of the Maratha Empire. Notice that Portugal still has ports, and Denmark and France and Great Britain. Interesting. I don't know. Let's figure out what that is. Ceylon. Oh, well, I'll figure it out. All right. there's the Nawab. I guess that Nawab is a kingdom or a territory. The Durrani Empire. The Sikh have their own empire. So now we have a sea change in India at this time, brought about by one social group over another, by a religious group over another. It probably didn't hurt that the leader died defending his territory. Oh, okay. Let's talk about what goes on in Spain. Yes, sir. Revolts in the Spanish Empire. That's why you just need a notebook. Like have a revolt. I can figure out how to make it. Spanish attempts to change Amerindian beliefs through religion, gender roles, property, often led to resistance and conflict. Gender roles, again, in non-old world or I don't know the right term. Non-colonizing, non-imperializing places in Africa and in the Americas and in Southeast Asia and Australia, in places where indigenous native peoples lived. It was much more balanced. Man, all my good words are missing. Women played different roles and had larger roles in a lot of these cultures, more so than in Catholic Europe, Catholic Spain, or in the Muslim world. Some parts of it. And so getting them to change their religions or change how they view members of society within your own society, look, it's a struggle now. Everywhere. Beliefs are beliefs. Which led to resistance and to conflict from those who denied disease. Marriage laws are non-existent. Men and women alike choose their mates and leave them as they please without offense, jealousy, or anger. Just free love, man. All right. They multiply in great abundance. Pregnant women work to the last minute, give birth almost painlessly, up the next day. I mean, blah, 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 blah. They bathe in the river and are as clean and healthy as before giving birth. First of all, the fact that they bathe regularly probably shocked Europeans too. All right. Anyway. Oh, that's Bartolomé de las Casas. He was the reformer who said, dude, they're human beings. All right. 1680, the Pueblos and the Apaches revolted, killing around 400 Spaniards at Santa Fe. This is called the Pueblo Revolt or the Pope's Rebellion. Nice. I'm guessing they named their leader Pope. Because I don't think the Pueblo or the Apache are Catholic, as a rule. All right. I'm learning so much stuff. So much stuff. All right. After the Pueblo Revolt, the Spanish sought less conflict by promoting assimilation, intermarriage, and less oppressive labor systems. In Spain, in the Spanish colonizing hierarchy, what group's at the top of the pyramid? Anybody know that? You know, like in the Americas, you've got Spanish and you have Africans and you have natives. Who's at the top of the food chain? What do they call it? Anybody know?
It's not like some viceroys.
Well, the viceroys were the government. Like the Peninsulares were the top social class. Those are people who were from Spain and moved over. Once you were born there, even if your parents are Spanish, you're no longer a Peninsulare. So your son is actually below you. Yeah, that's a great feeling. Then that's how you get mestizo. It's how you get mulatto. It's how you get all these other groups. Creole. Okay. Oh, who's next? Who's this?
Oh, Britain.
Yeah, it is. Struggles for power in England and its colonies. So remember, the colonies. Russia. The struggle was within. Spain, it was from without. Portugal is from without. England is from within. And even the colonial struggle is from within because it's their own people. It's those crazy colonists. All right. bet you this is William and Mary. Oh no, it's James II. Okay. James. Oh yeah, hence Jamestown. Derp. Okay. So James II. No, 1685. James the First was Jamestown. 1685, he inherited the throne, hoped to return England to Catholicism. From Henry VIII through Elizabeth, well, Mary, then Elizabeth, and then, I don't know, James, Charles. Anyway, it goes on and on and on. And every time someone took the throne, there's a flip-flop. It was, I want to be a Catholic state. We're going to be an Anglican state. Elizabeth was like, look, we're an Anglican, but if you're a Catholic, just do your thing. Just don't make a big deal about it. Parliament, which now has a decent amount of power for a non-king, it's like, we don't want another Catholic dynasty. Like, they were deathly afraid of it. I mean, is it James who goes after him? Yeah. Yeah, James is overthrown in a blood. Okay, no. The king before James actually tried to. Anybody know what Guy Fawkes Day is? Guy Fawkes? No. Anybody seen V for Vendetta? Oh, never mind. All right, so they tried to. He was going to blow up Parliament. Well, Guy Fawkes was, but there was a king who wanted to arrest Parliament, and they found out about it and snuck out the back door. This is a bloodless revolution. It's called the Glorious Revolution because nobody died. James just kind of ran away to France. And so now we're like, okay, well, what are we going to do? Someone's got to be in charge. So there they are. So they reached out to Mary and her husband, the William of Orange, and said, hey, come rule our country. And they're like, all right, but before you do, King and Queen, you must sign this document, the English Bill of Rights, which is where we get ours, the idea of ours. Our bicameral legislature is a byproduct of their parliament, the House of Lords, House of Commons. We have the Senate and the House of Representatives. Sign this, and this further limits the control of the king. England tried, or the English rulers tried to be absolute rulers, just like France and just like Spain. But you see, Parliament, way back in
England, so the House of Lords and the House of Commons, is it still like some people are lords and those people can only run for the House of Lords? What's the difference?
The House of Commons were supposed to represent the common man, and the House of Lords were supposed to give those people who felt like they deserved a voice because they have money, a voice in controlling the king because they weren't the king. And now it means something. I don't like to be a senator or to be a member of the House of Representatives in the United States. There's different criteria. There's an age requirement that's different. There's a residency requirement that's different. So I don't know what the parliamentary procedures are to run in England right now. It's a good question. But Parliament, way back in 1215, made King John II sign the Magna Carta, the Great Charter, which began the process of limiting the power of the king. Basically, what the Magna Carta does is it gives them control of England's finances. If the king wants to go to war, he has to get them to fund it. In the United States, a president has to get permission from Congress to declare war. Plus, because Congress funds it. So, again, there's a lot of overlap. All right. So they sign it, and now England is well on the way to having kings and queens who just like, whoa, trolley people, who just wave and open malls and things like that.
Where's that?
What?
That picture.
I don't know, somewhere in England? Dude, I mean, no, I didn't make this, I bought it. Why make this stuff? There's some people out there who have time and artistic creativity. I just peruse them and make sure the information is good. England became constitutional monarchy. There's a king, and a constitution. So that means, it's a checks and a balance. Check and a balance. It's, yes, there's a king. Yes, that king makes some decisions, but there are other things in place to make sure they don't make all the decisions. Largely controlled by the aristocrats in parliament. England is fundamentally rejecting absolutism. I don't want to know. And this idea that I am a king and God made me a king, so who are you lowly people to tell me what to do? No person is above the law, is what England is saying. That's what this is. Even kings and rulers are not above the law. All right, and now another problem. England's power grew in North America. That power is increasingly challenged by external groups seeking to limit English control. The French, various Native American groups, Spanish to a much lesser extent by now, because we're in the 1700s and Spain's now working at a sporting goods store, talking about how great they were in high school. Like, that's where Spain is now. In Jamaica, seized it from Spain. Most Jamaicans were descendants of runaway African slaves called Maroons. I did not know that. So who was there? So I'm assuming that the natives of Jamaica had their population decimated by earlier contact, and so they just ran there and settled. All right, which also explains why the economic situation in most Caribbean islands is not positive, because of the ground level beginnings of these places and who was in charge, and not from a capability standpoint, please don't get me wrong, but from a tools and skill standpoint, from a literacy standpoint, from understanding how law works, from understanding, from an educational standpoint, that when you start low, catching up is a struggle at best. Queen of the Maroons, the mother of all Jamaicans, Nanny. Interesting. Queen Nanny, I'm sure that's not pronounced the right way, united the various Maroon societies, fought the Maroon Wars, seeking freedom from England. She was queen for a long time. This is so cool. So I'm genuinely just, I'm excited. Another strong woman. Oh, look, it's Rollo changing women over time. Every time I'm telling you, you can see it now. It's just, yeah.
Wait, so she ruled from 1728 all the way to
That's what I'm wondering. If she did, that's great. That's like Queen Victoria. That's a long time for any ruler. And in 1663, the Gloucester County Rebellion in Virginia was the first slave rebellion. Slave rebellions were common. Again, it should not surprise you. Actually, it would be more surprising if you thought that African slaves in the world were just like, okay, and not revolting and didn't get upset and didn't think it was wrong. Early on, maybe not, but by 16, well, this is almost getting into the third generation of slaves coming to the Americas. We're women are giving birth to slaves. We're still importing them. So you're going to have people from various stages of captivity who begin to see things differently. So the fact that there were rebellions shouldn't be surprising. The fact that it came from the first known one is in Virginia shouldn't be surprising, because that's where the slaves have been the longest in what is now the United States. Enslaved Africans and white indentured servants united and demanded slaves. Look at that, coming together and demanded freedom, but Virginia's colonial leaders arrested the conspirators. This is odd. This is rare in the not in the world of uprisings, but no, yeah, it is rare in the world of uprisings that it's truly, it seems here to be truly a lower socioeconomic class revolting, because that doesn't happen. Most revolutions are middle class started, lower class fighting. Most revolutions are middle class. The American Revolution was a middle class, merchant class, aristocratic-ish revolution. French Revolution was a middle class, it was a bourgeoisie revolution. The plot. Oh, look, a newspaper. During the summer of 1663, actually, this is like one of those road signs. Indentured servants helped for several years of help in the Poropatank River and Pertan Bay region, plotted an insurrection against their masters to occur on 13 September. It was prevented when John Birkenhead, servant of Major John Smith of Gloucester, informed the authorities of the planned uprising. For his honest affection of the preservation of this country, the Virginia House of Burgesses on 16th September granted Birkenhead his freedom and 5,000 pounds of tobacco. So the snitch got rewarded. It's not really a snitch. If you don't do anything wrong, you really can't get snitched on. You don't ever call, when someone calls you out for doing something right, you don't call them a snitch. No one does. It's only when you're doing something wrong you get caught. And then you're mad at yourself, so you lash out at somebody else. All right. So, but now, why might a slave, and I'm sure this did not happen, this is not an isolated case. What's the motivation for a slave to spill it? Yeah. Huh? I don't think he expected that. Why would a slave not want an insurrection?
Because if they get caught, it means he'd be punished.
Well, he's not even involved in it. Like, someone not involved in it and they hear about it and they tell. Why would they tell? Anybody out there? What do you think? Yeah, they're going to come back harder on all the slaves. You're going to make my life miserable over this. And why do I want to be free? There are some slaves who thought that way. Yeah, I'm assuming. All right. Up north, Metacom, called King Philip by the English, because, pronouncing things is not the English way. United Amerindian tribes in New England and attacked settlements. Yes, he did. I love this. The Great Swamp Fight. The great name. The Great Swamp Fight, 1675. In Rhode Island. Yeah, Connecticut. Yeah, Trinity College. I was born way over here. Connecticut is so small you can drive all the way across the state for a field trip, spend 3 hours somewhere, and make it all the way back before the school day ends. Yeah, I went to Mystic Seaport. That was like the big, like in elementary school, you used to go to Fort Fisher all the time. Was like that trip to the beach, or you go to Old Salem, like the annual 4th grade, 5th grade field trips. Well, you ever went to Old Salem?
I thought you were saying that.
All right. Or the woman, the battleship. Okay. So some Native Americans sided with English, Mohegans, and the Pequot, and the war ended when Metacom's Wampanoag people were defeated. All right. Pequot. Most famous Pequot is in Moby Dick. And the Mohegans have a nice casino in Kanagana, the Mohegan Sun. That's a Native American casino. There you go. Wow. Can't wait to get my boys there. The boys haven't been there yet. All right. So again, uprisings from within. In God, if God were not pleased with our inhabiting these parts, why doth he still make room for us by diminishing them as we increase? That's John Winthrop. John Winthrop is famous for the City on a Hill speech. John Winthrop was a Massachusetts Bay Colony founder. He was a minister, comes from England. He believed that they were supposed to be there, and who can argue with that? King Philip's War temporarily slowed English expansion, but the American resistance in New England had been largely broken. They're going to be put on reservations. They're going to run and join other groups or fight and die fighting other groups for more land. As inaccurate as they were, those guns work. And even though Native Americans had some, the English had more. 800 of 52,000 settlers were killed. 3,000 of 20,000 Indians were killed. Native Americans were killed. 48 of 90 New England towns were attacked by natives. So almost half of the towns were attacked during this war. James? France. All right, you know, what time is it, Mary? What?
11.
I'll pick up with France tomorrow. This is going to be Haiti, I'm pretty sure. Well, internal challenges are probably Huguenots versus Catholics would be internal challenges. External challenges are going to be Toussaint Louverture and the Haitian Revolution. All right, huh? What?
Oh, I've been pronouncing it wrong.
I had 6 years of French. This is not fair. All right, so there you go. Any questions out there? All right, I'm going to stop recording, and then I will post this. Remember, if you want to get ahead or kind of at least look over the notes to kind of see where we're going, I sent you the PowerPoint in Remind. If you didn't get it, let me know. And I will probably send